Yo, what is up, ladies and gentlemen? It is your boy Zizzy here, and I am back at it again to bring to you all yet another brand new What If series. This being, what if Deku ate the gum fruit? Nah, I'm just playing. He didn't eat the gum fruit, but he's going to be Luffy's reincarnation in this video. And when I was in the process of thinking of an idea, this randomly hit me when I saw a picture of Deku wearing the straw hat. I was like, yo, I gotta make this a what if, and immediately I basically started looking up what if Deku was, Luffy's reincarnation to see if too many people have done this. And honestly, it was shocking to see that not a lot of people have, seeing as, the gum fruit basically gives you abilities that are kind of similar to a quirk, to be honest. Stretchy powers, that seems a little cartoony. So I was like, perfect idea for the what if. In case you guys are wondering, no, he will not be having hockey, because if I give him any of that, he's going to be far too broken. But I may be changing my mind as the series goes on, depending on what I decide to do with the story. However, with that being said, this video is going to be sponsored. However, more on that later on in the video. And with that being said, make sure you check out my links in the description. And with that being said, let's get started. Okay, so as to where I am going to be starting off, the what if is going to be on the day of Deku's birth. Now, many of you guys are probably under the impression that I'm about to give Deku black hair, or that I'm about to make him be born with the devil fruit powers, but no. He's going to be developing it at the age of 4 years old, just like other kids would with quirks. However, it's not going to be due to the fact that he has a quirk, because yes, boys, he is going to be Luffy's reincarnation, meaning he's going to be unlocking the powers just a little later on when his body can basically handle it. That being said, though, guys, I am going to be starting off the story on the day that Bakugo and Deku were basically walking across the bridge when they were little kids. And many of you guys are probably going to be like, why? But you're about to find out. So, as I had already stated, Deku and Bakugo would have basically had the same exact childhood as they do in canon up to this point, and Bakugo would be going forward, marching with his little flag in his hand as he's like, forward! He would just be leading the group. Everybody would be following Bakugo, and he'd be throwing little explosions from his hands as everybody's like, whoa, Bakugo, you're so cool. Immediately, Deku would be like, yeah, Kacchan, you're so awesome. Kacchan would then basically proceed to fall off the bridge. However, before he can, Deku's protective instinct of just wanting to save people would hit, and this is when Deku would first get the powers of the devil fruit to activate. However, many people in this version are going to be thinking it's a quirk. As Deku would use the abilities of the gum fruit, he would basically grab Bakugo before his body could even touch the water, and he would bring him back up as everybody's just like, whoa, Izuku, your quirk, it's amazing. Deku would immediately look at them and he's like, you're right. As it's at this point that he would basically just look at his hands as he just starts running home. And as Deku runs off, Bakugo would say, I didn't need your saving, as he would yell that at Deku at the top of his lungs. The kids would then start talking about how awesome Deku's quirk is, and that would actually rub Bakugo the wrong way. However, Deku would then make it to the quirk doctor, where they would tell him that there's no signs that he should have a quirk. However, he does, so they're just going to be naming it elasticity or whatever, and Deku would be just fine with that, seeing as it seems like a pretty baseline quirk, right? So I'm not really going to give too many details onto that. They would tell him to just watch out for the quirk, and if anything bad happens, to make sure to come to the quirk doctor in case he stretches out and can't go back to his normal form. That being said, after this, Deku would go to school the very next day, being preschool, I believe, and this is when a bunch of kids would start idolizing Deku for his quirk. People would start telling him that his quirk is awesome, and the teachers would tell him that he could definitely make a great hero with that. As Bakugo would walk up to Deku, he would say, yeah, he might be awesome in his own little way, but my quirk will always be better. As this is when the teacher would say, now Bakugo, no need to be rude. And Bakugo from this point forward would basically continue this little cycle of trying to basically consistently drag Deku down so that he doesn't see the full potential of his quirk. See, if Bakugo lets Deku get full of himself, he might start training, and that poses a threat to his superiority complex. complex. And so, Bakugo starts telling Deku things to make sure that he doesn't get better than him. And therefore, Deku, after months and months and months of this, would finally start to believe Bakugo. And, well, Deku would start getting a little sadder and go more towards his original personality in canon, of basically staying a little bit more on the silent side, being shy and all that stuff. And well, Deku would grow up almost as usual. However, one major change to the story that I felt like adding for no real apparent reason. I could have probably done this without this, but I figured that I wanted to add a little bit of a spice to the story. So, Deku's father is actually going to be around in this version of events, and this is when Deku would continue growing up with his normal stuff, right? Deku and his father are going to have a pretty decent bond together, and Deku will actually be loving his father quite a lot in this version because Hisashi doesn't end up working the job that he has in canon, which is overseas. Instead, he works in a company that's pretty close by, so he's always around with his family. And Hisashi in this version is just going to be a great father overall. However, this one we're going to be having a little bit of a time skip to the day where Deku was 9 years old and he would have just gone home from school. This is when Deku would begin to tell his father about how Bakugo bullied him yet again. And this is when Hisashi would say not to worry about it. They'll go out to the movies, and afterwards, Deku can forget all about that. Deku would smile at his father as he would say, yeah, bet, as this is when he would look at him and they would basically start heading their way to the movie theater. They would go over as they would watch Shang-Chi. I don't know what that new movie's called, bro, but that new Marvel movie, right? They would watch the new Marvel movie, and this is when Deku would be pretty hype. You know, obviously they wouldn't actually watch it, but before the movie starts, Deku would have actually seen something very interesting. Deku would have been in the seat with his father, as this is when randomly a sponsor would come up. As boys, this is when I will now be introducing the sponsor of today's video by the name of Fandom. Now, they are an anime company which basically makes a lot of anime merch. Like, boys, you can see this. We got My Hero, Haikuyu, we got Attack on Titan, One Piece. We have so many selections, and what you guys do see on screen is not the only color waves that they have. They have multiple colors of different designs. If you were to maybe want a single hoodie and let's say it's a pink, you don't want it in pink, well, you can change the color, make it white, make it pink, make it brown. They have a variety of selections on their shop, and honestly, it's pretty dope. I definitely am going to be having a cop myself. Let me show you guys. Oh my god, this is saucy. Tell me you don't want, oh my god. Tell me you wouldn't cop this for yourself. There is no way you wouldn't cop this. Like, look at this. Boys, come on. You're missing out if you don't cop any of this fire merch. You have to be literally dumb to not take off the offer. And not only are they offering you guys, you know, well, good prices, seeing as, you know, most other people they'd be overpricing, bro. The other day I went to the store and they tried to sell me a hoodie for $100. Like, bro, I get it. I got a little bit of money, but I'm not rich. Yo, hold on now. This hoodie's kind of fire. Nah, but anyways, okay, this is a sponsor, not me looking at the shop. But look, bottom line, store is dope. It would mean a whole lot to me if you guys were to at least go down below, click on the link down below in the description, and basically, you know, check out the stuff. You like anything, you can definitely use my code, which will be down in the description of Zether, which will be, you know, down below. You guys can just copy and paste it, and it will give you guys 5% off of this merch that is already, most of it, already 50% off. Meaning you guys will be getting a discount of 55%. So come on now. What are you guys waiting for? Go shop on Fandom now. And that's basically it for today's sponsor. Now, back to the video. Okay, so getting back into the story, Deku would basically finish up the movie, and afterwards Deku and Hisashi would be having a bag of popcorn, right? The usual, the normal stuff that people do when they go to the movies, right? They would of course take an alleyway because they ended up parking a little far because the movie theater was pretty packed and everybody wanted to watch the new movie. So this is when they would take a path towards the alleyway, and this is when they would proceed to get mugged. More specifically, Hisashi would, and Hisashi would try to fight back, not being the type of person to just let it happen. He would try to use his fire quirk, but the man would shoot him right in the left side of his lung, as Hisashi would fall onto the ground, and the man would grab Hisashi's wallet as he would run off. This is when Deku would fall to his knees as he's like, Dad, are you okay? This is when Hisashi would just look up at Deku, as this is when Hisashi would start coughing out blood, as he would have a smile on his face, a big smile. And he would then look at his son as he tells him, look at me, Deku. Or no, look at me, Zuko. As Deku would look at him, this is when he would tell him, promise me something. as he would cough out some blood. Deku would say anything at all. What? As Hisashi would say, promise me you'll smile more often, and promise me you won't let people push you around. Promise me to be the great man that I know you can become. As he would say, I might not be around there to keep telling you this for the next couple of years. I don't think I'm gonna make it, Deku. This is when Izuku would start crying and would just say, Dad, no, don't talk like that. We'll get you help. You're gonna make it out of here. But Hisashi would just close his eyes as he just says, promise me. And Deku would scream to the heavens as he's like, no! This is when immediately Deku would just see his dad close his eyes and his hand would fall to the ground. As Deku, after hearing those words, would stand up. As he would proceed to basically look down at the ground, his pupils would basically have dilated. And this is when Deku would make his fist grow into a giant shape. As Deku would just look towards the direction of the man as he just finished running away about 3 blocks. Deku would sprint. He would proceed to haul ass over there. And this is when Deku would blitz at the man as he would punch him one good solid time, breaking the man's ribs as he would throw him into another alleyway, and the gun would have gotten shot out of the man's head, as Deku would proceed to pretty much start beating the man senseless. He would start folding the man like an omelet and go so far that he actually almost kills the man. However, he would briefly be able to snap out of it. And this is when, for the next couple of months, Deku would pretty much try his hardest to try to uphold his father's wishes, but it would be difficult. Imagine losing your father and then being told that he wants you to smile. That sounds like one of the hardest things you would ever have to do. And so Deku would struggle with it for the next couple of months. Bakugo would kind of just chill out with calling Deku out, and Deku would just have a pretty tough time coming to terms with what had happened that day. Until one day when Deku gets home and throws his stuff to the side, Deku would just be in his room watching a classic Zether video. In case you haven't seen What If Zether Was a Naruto, go watch it because it's beautiful. And with that being said, Deku would basically just be like, hey mom, what's up? As Inko would walk inside the room, she would say, hey, aren't you gonna eat some dinner? Deku would look at Inko as he would say, nah, not really feeling it. As Inko would look at Deku, she would sit down and say, look, I know how hard it's been losing your father, but please promise me one thing. Deku would say, what? To move forward? To smile? How can I, mom? I lost my dad. How do you expect me to do this? Inko would then look at Deku as she would say, I'm not expecting you to be smiling about things, but your father would have never liked to see you this way, not eating, malnourished. This is not at all what your father asked of you. Deku would say, well, what is what he asked of me? This is when Inko would come over to Deku and she would start crying herself. As they would both go into each other and embrace, Deku would say, I'm lost, mom. I don't know what to do. What do I do, mom? Tell me what to do. I have no idea. I wake up every day not knowing if it'll be my last. As Deku would look at her, and Inko would then say, don't think like that. Things happen in life. You never know if your last day is going to be tomorrow, maybe 10 seconds from now. And that's why we got to live our life to the fullest. That's what your father always did. And that's why I loved him. This is when Inko would take out a picture book as she would begin to tell Deku stories about his father. As Deku would just hear these, and she would tell him stories about how her father long ago wanted to become a pirate. And Deku, hearing this, would smile as he would say, sounds like some hell of a dream. As Inko would say, oh, it was. He always searched for this thing by the name of the One Piece. As Deku would hear that, and he would then say, yeah. Sounds like a great goal. He would say, I wish my father could have accomplished it. This is when Inko would say, it's not about accomplishing the goal. It's about the trip and the experience that it takes you on. As Deku would hear this, he would be like, yeah, maybe you're right. As Inko would pretty much grab a hat that she has behind her, and she would say, this used to be your father's when he was about your age. He used to always wear it and smile all the time. I told you about how me and your father have been dating since high school, right? And she said about your age, meaning he wasn't exactly his age, but, you know, around that age group, I guess you could say. As Deku would say, yeah, he used to tell me about it all the time. Dad always tried to give it to me, but I never really wanted it. I mean, look at the hat. As Inko would start chuckling, she would say, yeah, but your dad did write in his will that if anything was to ever happen to him, he would wanted you to keep this. As Deku would take hold of the hat, he would then put it on and crack a big bright smile. As this is when Deku would finally begin his transfer transformation into more of a of a Luffy personality, upbeat, smiling, not ever letting anybody just throw him around, having more of a will, having an iron will, having a personality that's more infectious. He's not going to sit there and be a bitch boy anymore, because he's not built like that. And in case some of you guys are wondering, why are you abbreviating, bro? Like, what's going on? Simply put, I don't want a yellow check on the video. That being said, this is when Deku would go to school, and for the next couple of weeks, kids would make fun of Deku, especially Bakugo, calling Deku out for wearing an ugly hat, and Deku would always just smile. He would never fight back, never say anything. He would always just crack a smile and tell Bakugo that, well, it's just his opinion. Deku would always just be upbeat from that day forward. And it would honestly rub Bakugo the wrong way, because Bakugo lived for seeing Deku down. But now that Deku was always smiling, he just doesn't know anymore. And with that being said, this is when they would continue to just basically go on with their days, right? They would just be chilling, you know what I'm saying? They would just be vibing. And this is when we're going to be having a little bit of a brief time skip. Seeing as during this time, of course, our boy Deku is going to be training, right? And, he's going to be doing that stuff. And during the time of that little time skip, Bakugo, about let's say 4 months into Deku starting to wear the hat, tried to bully Deku at one point and even take the hat from him. But Deku proceeded to say, oh nah bro, this my dad's hat, you not finna touch this, as he would hit him with the gum Gatling, and Bakugo, he got folded like an omelet. He's not messing with Deku anymore. It's not gonna happen, like, at all. Like, not happening, not one bit. Nope, not at all. And with that being said, Deku would then basically proceed to continue to train for the next couple of years, honing his stretchy quote-unquote quirk, but it's not a quirk, it's the devil fruit powers. And with that being said, this is when I'm going to be skipping over to the day where Deku walks into the classroom on the day of the sludge villain. He would sit down, lie his head down, and just kind of pass out, since he's kind of tired from the night before. This is when out of nowhere the teacher would walk inside and start doing his "I know you all want to be heroes" shtick. Everybody would get excited. Bakugo would be like, "Don't compare me to these losers, teach." And Deku would just be at the back like, just be quiet, bro. Like, you're annoying. And it's at this point that Deku would kind of just finish class. Bakugo wouldn't really mess with him, and he would then take the shortcut because it's his mother's birthday on this particular day. This is when Deku would start walking by, as this is when the sludge villain would jump onto Deku, as he's just like, "Give me your body, kid." And this is when Deku would immediately start losing his breath, as Deku just starts freaking out a bit, but then remembers, oh yeah, he has a quirk. As Deku, not a quirk, but a devil fruit, as Deku would pretty much stretch his head out of the sludge villain, he'd be like, as he breathes, and it says, much better. This is when the sludge villain would be like, what the? As Deku just basically turns himself into a giant balloon and gets like fatter, as the sludge villain expands and gets thrown everywhere along the walls. This is when All Might would appear, and Deku would meet his idol, as he freaks out and is just like, All Might, you're the All Might. He would freak out, get an autograph, and when All Might would ask Deku what happened, Deku would explain that he has a stretchy quirk. As he would use it once again, All Might would just be extremely shocked and be like, this kid, he has so much finesse, and he was already able to take down a villain, which I even struggled with. As All Might would look at Deku, he would then consider Deku to be one of the holders for, one for all, and he would bottle up the sludge villain, as he would pretty much dip. That being said, All Might would have ended up getting Deku's number, and he would have ended up asking Deku if he wanted to train with him. So for the first month of Deku's training during the 10 months, Deku would have ended up training with All Might. And as for those of you who are like, yo dude, what did Inko and Deku do for her birthday? Deku got her some golden earrings and took her out to eat, some slight stuff, and well, after that, Deku just proceeded to start training with All Might for a month. After the training, All Might would have just started growing onto Deku would have started growing onto All Might, and All Might would have a clear liking for Deku. However, All Might wouldn't really do too much about it, and he just really likes Deku as a whole. He just likes Deku, and he wants Deku to take one for all, but Deku just refused it, saying he doesn't really need it. Why doesn't somebody else who's more on the weaker side take it? And that leads to All Might actually thinking about that, meaning he's going to be finding another quirkless kid in about another 2 months who is actually on the younger side, of the spectrum. Like, let's say he's about 4 years younger and he has a heroic heart similar to what Deku would be in canon, and All Might ends up training him, as that's basically who the successor of One For All is going to be. I don't want to give it to Mirio because too OP. Deku wouldn't be able to beat him if he got One For All, and I just want Deku to be the #1 hero in the future. So it's like, yeah, Mirio, sorry about that, bro, but you not getting One For All, not at all. As yeah, this one Deku would train for the next 9 months by himself, actually watching tons of anime for ideas of how he can use his little stretchy power. He would of course have idols such as Mr. Fantastic from the Fantastic Four, Luffy from One Piece, as that's where he actually developed the power of the Gum Gum Gatling. Seeing as it's not technically Luffy, but it's somebody who is similar to Luffy in an anime that Deku likes to watch. And that's where Deku gets a lot of his ideas for the way that he uses his powers. That being said, Deku during the 9 months would also train in a lot of martial arts, and this is when I will now be covering the entrance exam. The entrance exam is going to be going as many of you guys can probably expect. Deku would of course arrive, and seeing as, you know, he's not the same person that he is in canon, he wouldn't exactly end up meeting Uraraka or tripping or anything. So when he goes inside, he kind of just takes the test and he waits outside patiently for the robot portion, seeing as Deku is not about to rush nobody, you know, he's chilling, he's vibing. And so Deku just kind of goes outside, you know, he chills out, he's pretty mellow, he's vibing, right? And you know, they're waiting for the robots to get called and all that stuff, but Deku would get kind of tired and literally just jump over the gate. He would stretch his leg out so far that he basically goes over the gate and just goes into his arm as he stretches back into it and just goes over the gate, as he would just start destroying robots left and right. And the teachers wouldn't even notice this, but Deku would already be going on a rampage, and this is when the kids would be like, that's not fair, after about 20 seconds. But this is when the teachers would notice, and they would be like, yeah, how about we give this kid some extra time? As President Mike is like, what, you all should have gone. Like, do you think we wait for some bell to start so that we can finally start doing our jobs? No, we don't wait. Go, go, go. As he would basically finally start opening up the gate. And this is when everybody would rush inside as they all start destroying robots left and right. Gum Gum Gatlings are being thrown everywhere. Deku would throw giant punches. He would stretch out and cover entire robots and crush them inside of his stretchy figure. And he would even turn himself into a giant buff man of the stature of All Might. Seeing as Deku can stretch himself, he can definitely stretch himself into the shape that he wants. And in case you guys are wondering what physique Deku has whatever physique he wants, because the man can pretty much make himself look like whatever he wants. Being stretchy technically has more powers than just the ones that Luffy uses. And seeing as he is in the quirk world, I am going to be also taking a couple of influences from other stuff. So yeah, it's going to be Luffy's reincarnation with extra steps, right? That's why I didn't give him Haki, because if I gave him this plus all of Luffy's powers, it would be not okay. Like, Haki is on another level. It's not healthy. It is not healthy. But with that being said, Deku would obliterate the robots, to put it lightly. And when the 0-pointer comes around, Deku is just like, nope. But he does actually end up saving Uraraka, because at this point, Deku is pretty powerful with his quirk, don't get me wrong. But, you know, if he can avoid a 0-pointer, he's gonna avoid the 0-pointer. So, Deku would do just that. Psyche, he wouldn't avoid it. He would create a giant fist and stretch himself out to be a giant. Just kidding, he doesn't do all that. But seriously, he creates a giant fist in his hand, and he starts spinning it around as if a cowboy was spinning around a little bit of a rope. And this is when he basically threw his arm, as his arm punched straight through the 0-pointer's chest, and it fell down to the ground. And afterwards, Deku ran home. As for the next 3 days, Deku was just waiting patiently for himself to get the letter, eating a whole lot of food, and basically got his acceptance. He would get his stuff together, and Inko would drop him off for his very first day. Deku would walk inside, seeing Bakugo talking to Ida, just arguing, as Deku was like, ah. And Uraraka would then walk up behind Deku. She's like, hey, you're the boy with the green hair. And Deku's like, hey. And he's wearing his little Luffy hat, even though he's wearing the uniform. And she's like, why do you always wear the hat? Deku would basically just say that he really likes it, as it's at this point that Uraraka would not question it any further. Aizawa would end up pretty much waking up as we would all expect, and Deku would just be like, alright, as they all go outside, and of course they end up taking the quirk exam, or the quirk apprehension test, because, well, Aizawa wants to see how all of them do. And I bet you can all guess how good Deku's scores were. Because, I mean, the man has a quirk that, or no, not a quirk, but a devil fruit power that's very versatile. So when it comes to the normal things that they do in this version of events, Deku basically aces it. The 50-meter dash, Deku quite literally stretches his legs really long and just sprints across. He hauls ass. As for the grip strength test, he makes his hand a little bigger and crushes it. The standing long jump, he jumps all over it by making himself kind of like a slingy. And as for the repeated side steps, he does something similar. As for the ball throw, he pretty much spins his arm so fast and throws it about 4,000 meters. And for the 3 remaining tests, Deku just gets pretty good scores for the push-ups, sit-ups, and, you know, the little plank or whatever it is that, you know, you would expect Deku to do. And afterwards, people would just be shocked at Deku. Uraraka would walk up to Deku and she's like, dude, how did you do this? Deku would say, you really want to find out how? And Uraraka would say, yeah. As Deku would say, then you better come back for part 2, as that, boys, is where I'm going to be ending off. What if Deku was Luffy's reincarnation? If you liked the video, make sure to go down below, drop me a like, share the video around with another friend, and make sure you guys check the link out in the description if you guys want to check out the merch store sponsor. With that being said, I love each and every single one of you guys. It has been your boy Zether, and I am out. Peace.